Israel. Today's video was promised a long time ago and is designed to back up many of our understandings thus far. But I already know, when we begin, your doubt will swirl more than a black woman at a white frat party. But I beseech thee to resist your unyielding urges to buck me until the end. Let me explain. See, when you read the book of Lamentations chapter 1 in the Septuagint, for the reader, my God takes you on a holy talk journey of not only the first and second destructions of Jerusalem, but he spends most of the chapter on the upcoming third destruction as well. The perception I want you to receive so you can perceive and believe so not to be deceived is that of our Ola and Oliba understandings. You remember? They were, or they are, the metaphysical custodians of Judea and Sumeria who, just like each and every metaphysical custodian and angelic administrations on earth, which includes the earth itself, have partaken, perpetrated, and allowed complete wickedness to happen on their watch. Sure, they may have been taken over by force, but, as you will soon hear and hopefully perceive, not only did they rebel and didn't revolt against it, but they also exonerated and didn't excommunicate those that would do the unthinkable. Not only that, as you will soon hear, Oliba had no problem whatsoever in adapting and adopting new children in our stead. So saying that, and as I put on my spurs, because I know the bucking is about to commence, let's begin, shall we? Oh yeah, like I said before, buckle up, buttercups, and tighten up your chin straps. This is going to be one holy talk ride. Quote, and it came to pass, after Israel was taken captive, and Jerusalem made desolate, that Jeremiah sat weeping and lamented with this lamentation over Jerusalem and said, stop. So as you can clearly hear, this prophecy's beginnings are at the end of the second Babylonian siege. We know this because the destruction part of Jerusalem happened after the second and final death blow siege. All right, let's continue for more clues, shall we? Verse 1, quote, how does the city that was filled with people sit solitary? She is become as a widow. She that was magnified among the nations, and princess, Oliba, among the province, has become tributary. Now switches to the Roman destruction era. She, Oliba, weeps sore in the night, and her tears are on her cheeks, and there is none of all her lovers to comfort her. All that were her friends have dealt deceitfully with her. They are become her enemies. Stop. Bingo. Did you catch the reason we know it switched? Right. It was the, quote, all that were her friends have dealt deceitfully with her. They are become her enemies. Part that tells the true tale. Remember, Nebuchadnezzar didn't need deceitfulness from the surrounding nations because our ancestors were only supposed to be there 70 years in return. No, this overlays our Jerusalem world history understanding. You remember when I proved it was a conspiracy between the Edomites, Samaritans, Hasmoneans, etc., and the Roman general to cause the revolt so they had justification to deport our ancestors. Now, we know it's not talking about the end days because it says, quote, there is none of all her lovers to comfort her. But the end day double secret double cross prophecies called the Esau/Israeli acquaintances, quote, men of thy covenant and allies. Big difference. Besides, unless you are into S and M, the only true lovers the Israelis have today is America and Great Britain. Everybody else are having their arms twisted by them. Let's continue for more clues, shall we? Verse 3. Listen closely. Now it switches to our dispensation. Quote, Judea is gone into captivity by reason of her affliction and by reason of the abundance of her servitude. She dwells among the nations with an S. She has not found rest. Listen. All of her pursuers with an S have overtaken her between her oppressors with an S. Stop. Bingo. Why bingo, you ponder? Well, for the scriptures to say, quote, all her pursuers with an S have overtaken her between her oppressors with an S. That can only mean one. We indeed have different strains of perfidious enemies within us that have overtaken and are now in leadership of my God's people. 2, by saying between her oppressors with an S. That can only mean we indeed have more than one oppressor. But most importantly, it means our pursuers took us over doing a transition of oppressors to become the leaders and oppressors we see today. Hey, wait a cotton picking minute. Wait a civil rights minute. Am I the only person, when hearing this understanding, overlaid it with our we're supposed to be out of here already understanding? Do you remember when we read Deuteronomy chapter 32 verse 29? You know, when the scriptures told us, quote, the Lord smite thee with insanity, comma, and blindness, comma, and astonishment of mind, and thou shalt grope at midday, as a blind man will grope in the darkness, comma, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, semicolon. In this case to mean, whatever comes next is a direct result, decision as you will, of being given a reprobate mind. Okay, that's what the semicolon was for. Quote, the Lord smite thee with insanity and blindness and astonishment of mind, and thou shalt grope at midday as a blind man will grope in the darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. And then, after the decision, thou shalt be unjustly treated, comma, and plundered continually, comma, and there shall be no helper. And remember, we deduced there was only one time in so-called African American history where this jot and tittle situation of insanity, in this case to mean, fight to amalgamate with the very people who were currently lighting their fags on a black burning body. Well, the only historical event, and let me repeat, the only historical event that fits the description of blacks having a right mind at first, in this case to mean black power, and then be smitten with insanity to the point that now, quote, thou shalt be unjustly treated, comma, and plundered continually, comma, and there shall be no helper, is the civil rights movement. Think about it this way for a skinning and grinning minute. The very fact that there was a black Wall Street financial district in every major city, coupled with the fact that there was a time colored money was no good to the white man. To me, that can only mean, quote, and plundered continually cannot be talking about after slavery or the Reconstruction era. Can you dig it? But let's continue for more clues, shall we?